There's a street in South Liverpool where the traffic rolls steady and the trees line the pavement like guardians of memory. It's an ordinary place for the most part, but some streets carry a shadow, a moment so heavy it never quite lifts. This is Menlove Avenue, and this is where Julia Lennon died. The date was the 15th of July, 1958. Julia Lennon, mother of the future Beatle John Lennon, was visiting her sister Mimi. She'd been chatting at the gate that evening just here, in the quiet suburb of Walton. She crossed the road, headed for the bus stop. She made it to the central reservation, paused, and then stepped out. That's when an off-duty policeman's car struck her. They say he was young, inexperienced, that he pressed the accelerator instead of the brake. Julia was thrown through the air, her body landing hard against the tarmac, killed instantly. She was just 44. John wasn't there. His friend, Nigel Wally, had just been walking with her earlier and heard the impact. He ran to tell Mimi, and the world changed. Decades passed, the Beatles rose, the world spun on, but the ground on Menlove Avenue remembered. Not long ago, not far from that very spot, a man named Trevor Hughes was walking with his metal detector, a retired postman, kept to himself, just like the peace. On a damp September morning, he heard it, that familiar chirp from the detector, just there in the grass. Trevor knelt, swept the earth aside, and found a delicate, heart-shaped locket, folded gold dulled by time. Inside, a photo of a smiling woman with short dark hair and knowing eyes. On the back, the initials JL. Trevor, of course, had no idea what he just found. That night, Trevor said the telly came on by itself. White noise, full blast, just after 3 a.m. The locket had moved. He'd left it in a drawer. Now it was on the windowsill, facing outside toward Menlove Avenue. Over the next few days, things got worse. He heard footsteps in the hall, light, careful. He smelled something odd, lavender and cigarette smoke. The kind of perfume you don't smell these days. Once he found his front door wide open, at dawn, thought it had been bolted. The locket always moved during the night, closer to the door. Trevor's dreams turned strange. He said he saw a woman in them, watching him from the curb, saying nothing, just waiting. He started digging, went through old archives looking into the history of the area. That's when he saw the photograph, Julia Lennon. It was her, the same face in the locket, the same smile. Trevor said he felt a cold shiver run through him, like he'd disturbed something that wasn't meant to be found. In that moment, he decided he didn't want it anymore. He brought it back to Menlove Avenue just before sunset. He stood by the bus stop, locket in hand. Then he saw her. Not in the street, no, in the reflection of the bus stop's glass. A woman, slim, quiet, with the same knowing smile, looking across the road just as she had that day. The street lights flickered, the air turned thick, and from somewhere, not from her lip, but from the space around him, Trevor heard a whisper. Jenny. He dropped the locket in fear and walked away without picking it up. He said the locket's still there. Some say it vanished, others say they've seen it hanging from the tree, catching the light. Drivers report a figure stepping out into the road, only to vanish. One cyclist swerved and crashed, convinced he saw a woman cross just in front of him. And every year, on the 15th of July, just after 3 p.m, radios in Woolton hiss into static. The breeze carries whispers, the scent of lavender returns. Julia Lennon never came home that night, but part of her never left. But there's one account that's harder to shake. It came not from a local, but from someone who flies above this city for a living. A commercial airline pilot, someone used to long hours, precise detail, and clear thinking, was driving home from a late shift. He'd landed a short-haul flight from Amsterdam that evening, routine job landing, clean. He grabbed his overnight bag, headed out of the airport and took the familiar route through South Liverpool towards Woolton. Around 12:40 a.m, he turned into Menlove Avenue. The road was quiet, damp from earlier rain. That's when he saw her. A woman in 1950s clothing. She was crossing the road just ahead, but not walking, gliding smoothly, silently. Her coat moved with no wind. He said she wore a vintage skirt and low heels with a handbag in the crook of her arm. Her hairstyle was set like something out of a black and white photograph. The pilot hit the brakes hard, but she didn't react, didn't look up, didn't even flinch. She floated across the road, straight to the central reservation, then simply vanished into the shadows beyond the trees. He sat there in the car, heart racing, not sure what he'd even just witnessed. He later said, "It was like watching time walk past me, and I knew she wasn't meant to be there." He told his wife in the end, but at first he told no one. Pilots don't like being seen as unreliable, but the image stayed with him. It still does. Another witness, another moment. Julia Lennon reaching out from the past. There's something strange about this part of Liverpool. Something older than the Beatles, older than the bricks and roads. A ley line, an invisible path of earth energy, runs in a perfectly straight line through St. Peter's Church in Walton, across Mendips, John Lennon's boyhood home, and stretches on to Calderstones Park, where ancient druid stones still stand. These lines were believed by early cultures, Celts, Druids, even the Chinese, to channel spiritual energy, sacred geometry, points of power. What happens when one of the most iconic musicians in history is born into that current of energy? A boy whose life would be marked by dreams, loss, music, and mystery. Could it explain the strange sightings, the ghost of his mother crossing the road, the creativity, the tragedy, the thin veil between worlds? Maybe that ley line is more than a theory. Maybe Liverpool's most famous son lived and died under its influence. This was Mr. Strange. Thank you for joining me. And remember, some ghosts don't haunt halls and graveyards. Some wait on street corners, watching, listening, hoping to be heard.